All right, so let's get this show on the road. And so, first, I want to talk about we got to set the stage and explain how this even came about. Some of you may have been on the previous webinar where I talked about mental fitness and did an overview of it. And we did a little practice and went into that. Of course, mental fitness is not something you just arrive at and you achieve it in that moment. You have to practice it. And so that's what the emphasis for today is, and to expose more people. And to answer how I got into this, I am a nurse. I've been in healthcare for over 20 years and primarily pediatrics. However, my last decade plus has been in administration, executive coaching, speaking, and just all the things. So I went back to school, got a master's degree in psychology because I wanted to coach and I wanted to be responsible about it and have the proper training. And then I got board certified. But the push for all of that was that I had a stroke when I was 36 and I had brain surgery, was in intensive care and the whole nine. And I realized something had to shift in my life. And once I, quote, figured it out, I wanted to share it with people. And then I stepped into coaching and learning more tools. And mental fitness is one of those tools I've learned that I have not mastered it. I'm not going to say that. It's a journey, and I'm glad I'm on it, and I want to bring people along. And so we're going to quickly go over it. I'm going to make sure you get access to the slides since you registered. Then we'll go a little deep into it. Not like, you can't understand it. It's not going to be sciencey. Not that you can't understand that, but this is not a lecture, biology lecture. And then next we'll go into some steps on how you can move forward and keep advancing your mental fitness. And so now that we're all here and most people are probably in the room and settled, I want to encourage you. If you're listening in the background, that's fine. Do you, you got to do you. I would encourage you, though, to take this little snippet of time, if you're able and your life allows it, to just stop. Whatever you're doing with multitasking and whatnot we call, and just give yourself this few moments to just sit for a second and be still. And I call that coming into the room. So your body could be here, but your mind could be in a million other places. And to do that, when you ground, you just take some breaths, breathe in slow and let it out. You can do it again. And I'm taking my time with this because I need to ground myself. I get nervous and excited about these presentations, and the nerves get a little high. And so breathing calms the nervous system. And again, give yourself this time. If nobody else tells you today, this week, this year, or in your life thus far, you're worthy. You're worthy to give yourself this time. And it's an hour and maybe less. Who knows? Be kind to yourself and be kind to each other. So anytime you talk about a topic like mental fitness, which has some mental health properties, obviously, people might get triggered or someone may hurt someone's feelings or there's some offense. Give yourself space if you need to step away, if you need to just go off altogether and close out, that's fine. Protect yourself and your mental health, and that's very important. And then respect other people. Don't necessarily, insult someone for the way they're feeling. It's their feelings, and their feelings have nothing to do with you. And I mean emotions. Now, respect is a different thing. This is a respectful space. So I just ask that you keep that in mind, a respectful, inclusive space. I mean, it was advertised for women. I mean, that's what it is for. However, since we're all here at this moment, we're going to be in this together. And then the last thing I always like to say is hear me out before you tune me out, because I'm a person that tunes people out. And not in like I don't want to hear it, but like, yeah, yeah, I know that. Yeah, yeah. If you know it all, then it's hard to grow. So for just a moment, just be open to the idea that you might learn something new. You might affirm something you already knew, and you may have more questions afterwards, and that's okay too. And so today, the focus of the mental fitness discussion is sabotage. And oh, doesn't that sound so dramatic? I feel like I should have had some dun, 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 music or something to just usher that in. So, what is sabotage? Unfortunately, it is the deliberate destruction, damage, or obstruction of something. And if you look in the dictionary, Miriam, whoever's and everybody's, especially for political or military advantage. Okay, that sounds, that makes sense. You try to sabotage someone to get the upper hand in politics or military. Not a good thing, but the definition makes sense. But when I read it, it left me asking the question, well, what about sabotage in my everyday life? I'm not in the military. I'm not a politician. Um, so this definition applies outside of this context. You can be sabotaged in any part of your life. And so it's not just politics or military. It just says especially. And so with that, having worked in a lot of places and been a lot of places and interacted with a lot of different people, especially in coaching and coaching women who experienced trauma, namely in the workplace, these are some indicators of sabotage. So I want to start with the things that happen to us. And when I say us, my focus is women of color and their allies. So anyone who is clear that racism is real and that if we get that together, we'd get a whole lot of stuff together. And women are not treated with as much respect, and that is due to them in society. And therefore, we don't have enough women leaders, educators, all the things. And so that's the impetus behind this. And from all those experiences, from my own and other people telling me theirs and sharing stories, these are the types of things that happen. And you can be gaslighted. Like, this is in your head. That was fine. That's not what they meant. But if you're in a space and you find you're always the last to know, isn't that the worst? Because you have to catch up and then you're working triple hard. What if your ideas are constantly being shut down? Tenacity, that's a good thing to have, and perseverance. But at some point, you may just say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not speaking up. You're excluded from important meetings. That can go with the last to know. However, it could be different. Maybe you're the last to know that we're starting a new initiative, but then you don't get invited. You find out and you still don't get invited to the meeting for the initiative, even though your roles and responsibilities call for it. Increasing workload with decreasing authority. This is a big red flag. And as a coach, it's something that we talk to people about often, especially women, because we can sometimes fall in that helper pleaser category quite a bit. Oh, sure, I'll do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sign me up. I'll do this. I'll chair this. I'll do that. And then next thing you know, you've got a smorgasbord. I don't think I've ever used that word in a sentence. A smorgasbord of things that may or may not be related. And you're like, how did it get to this? And then you also realize if it's in the context of work or a membership or organization, I also don't have any authority. Not that you want to boss people around, meaning you don't have power to make decisions. You are important because you have a pile of work this high. And that's what you get buried under. And so you become distraught, your mental health gets impacted. And that's what we want to flip the script on. If you're being micromanaged by people on the committees, etc., but you should know that micromanaging is a clear sign your supervisor doesn't trust you and can also be a sign of sabotage. If you've ever been in leadership, the tricks of the trade are, put them on a plan, do this, do that, and monitor. Yet if a person has ill intent, and we don't want to assume ill intent, however, as women in society, we have experienced these things, the intent may be from the start that you will not be successful. And in that event, you've got to know, have a plan, be able to take care of yourself. And these are the things that we got to talk about openly. Coworkers are openly dismissive or passive aggressive. And that is a sign of escalating behavior because it goes back to the last. And it's funny how everything goes back to information because you may be being dismissed or treating passive aggressively because everybody knows what you. And you see how that could sound paranoid, you're like, nobody tells me anything. It just sounds like you're being extreme and emotional. And in the person's mind who is not on the same side of you as you on these things, it affirmed the idea that women are emotional, blah, blah, blah. And to that I say, okay, so what? Does that make women incompetent? Not all women are emotional. First of all, to put us in one bucket is not the right thing to do. And then second of all, humans are emotional. So why is this happening? That's a big question. There's so many factors in society. And then I thought, well, why? Well, who? Who has the most access to sabotaging you in your life? You can put it in the chat. I'm gonna pause, or you can raise your hand and come off mute and share with me. Us. Any takers? Who has the most access to sabotaging you? It doesn't have to be you specifically, but someone that it could be your friend, I know this one person, or it could be a population. It could be a type of work group. Oh, supervisors, parents. Oh, that's a good one. My daughter is helping me moderate the chat. She's a grown up. Um, but just grown enough to know how to use technology better than me. Um, Mother, yeah. Oh gosh. And see, I'm not saying that the moms don't sabotage. I'm just saying that if you make a joke about how you're gonna end up on the couch of a psychiatry office or psychology office when you're older, a lot of times people blame the mom. And I'm not saying it's not, I'm not want to invalidate anyone, but it just made me reminded me of a stereotype of most of women being hysterical. Someone says they feel like they're going through this right now in their own work environment and their supervisor. I can acknowledge that too. I've been in positions where I was the youngest, also a woman, and a woman of color. Woo wee. And oftentimes in leadership, you are trying to do the right thing, and not everyone is on board with that, or they think you're doing it for selfish gain. And that's not it at all. You're doing it from a place of service, hopefully. Loved ones, authority positions. It says new hires. Yeah, that can happen too. Say you work in an environment and the culture is very tight and everyone gets along, they're fine. Then you hire somebody new and you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but then you're like, oh no, they're tearing us apart. They're destroying the culture. Someone says, my job hired a new office manager 2 months ago, 2 months into me working there, and they put them on a corrective action plan and micromanage and fired them. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I wish I could say that that doesn't happen or like, oh no, that doesn't happen. I hear it all too often. And when people take your power away from you, or you feel like it, because they can't take it, that's the thing, you can become distraught. And whether you're starting from that place of repair, like you're repairing yourself, you're pulling yourself back together after someone has sabotaged you, or you've just been hurt or traumatized from one of these environments, you will have peaks and valleys. And it's also possible that on your healing journey and leading up to the point that this happened or whatever happened, Not to blame the victim, never blame the victim. We do have to recognize that we can't change other people. And that, oh my gosh, that is hard for me because I'm like, I can see what they're doing wrong. You can always see somebody else's situation better. And so when you're going through something, when you're experiencing sabotage, when you're repairing your mental health, when you're just trying to get back into the game, and you think this person, that person, that person, all of them do have access to sabotaging you. That's true because they have access to you as a person. And so, what can we do to build up our defenses? Well, I'm going to point out someone who has access to all of us. And it is one of those things that just drives me crazy because you have to work at it so hard, it seems like. But it's you. You as in you, me, them, they, us, we, us. We can sabotage ourselves. And I am not removing any responsibility from external forces. The goal here is to equip us with something that helps us be persistent, to stay the course. Don't give in, don't throw in the towel. Um, to realize that you are worthy. Oh, someone said they knew it was, just about to ask about self-sabotaging. You are worthy. Good job, Alexis. You are worthy. And especially if you've been traumatized, you can get into self-defeat. Oh, they were right about me. I worked so hard and I still wasn't good enough. One of mine is, I can't believe I have all these degrees and I'm building a business because I want it to happen overnight. You want rapid success. And us, we can get in our own way. And so the Y stands for yielding to negative thoughts. I mean, that just seems obvious, right? YOU. Why do you have these feelings and what gets in your way? Why do you sabotage yourself? Because you give in and allow those thoughts to permeate us and keep us from moving forward. And give in, I don't mean like you just, you wimping out. Life is real and life be life. Then the other part of it is we overthink and overanalyze. This is me right here. I can give you 20,000 different ways the situation's going to turn out, which puts you into analysis paralysis most of the time. And then you don't get to see how it turns out because you don't do it. And I can admit to that when it comes to business webinars and things. I enjoy this so much when I do it, but then the minutes before, I get so nervous and my stomach starts to hurt and my mouth gets dry. And I literally said out loud, why did I do this? Because I'm overthinking what could happen, what could go wrong, and not what could go right. So it can manifest when we do all of those things, leading to indecision or taking an action that undermines your goal. So you might just subconsciously or consciously decide, I'm gonna do this because I know what we think we know, it'll result in this happening, and I'll be able to avoid that situation. For the U, unhealthy coping mechanisms. Sometimes, because we've been through these things, we sabotage our future, our present moment, whatever it is, by leaning on things that are not good for us. So, what comes to mind? Drugs and alcohol. I'm not even talking about that. Of course, don't do that. Dare to keep a kid off drugs. That's what I learned in elementary school. Um, but unhealthy coping mechanisms could be something as reading a fiction book, or um, I have to cook, so I can't do this, and that's your excuse every day, or um, I got to go get an oil change. I mean, just anything that you could think of that replaces the thing that you've set your eyes on. And so, I am the queen of walking in circles, and literally one of my kids would be like, Mom, you said you were doing this, go that way. That's residual from a stroke, but hey, I'm working with it. But to cope by avoiding, you still don't reach your goal. And so when you hear of unhealthy coping mechanisms, please don't opt out and say, well, that's not me. I don't have any habits like that. It can be an everyday habit. It could be a good one, like exercising. Why do we sabotage ourselves? Fear and trauma are, they're really right up the top for that. Maybe we've done it already and it's going to happen again. I'm not doing that to myself. I have so much going on. I can't do that right now. And so you don't do it well. And I know fear is there, fear, and scared. Because to me, scared is like, oh my gosh, like breaking out in a sweat, like I don't want to do this. And um, it's just gonna go bad like it always does. And it's literally like terror. Trauma, that can be a number of things. Childhood trauma, let's go back. I'm not gonna even say moms, parents, family members, teachers, classmates, anything that could have happened to you in your life that wired your brain to believe that if I go to this situation, this is going to happen. And that's sabotaging yourself, keeping yourself out of circles and places. And then personality. I'll use myself as an example again. I can come across as an extrovert, but I love, love, love being home with a book and just relaxing and doing nothing. And so that could sabotage me because the energy, the lift that is required to talk in public is a lot. And so it could really sabotage me if I just let that be the supreme thing that guides my actions. Then forget just the business, the message that I want to share, the lessons I've learned, would just stick with me. And you have something to give. I have something to give. And so whatever that goal is you have, these things on this slide are things that need to be addressed to move forward. And to address them, that's where the protect your peace came from. We got to protect our peace. We got to build a fortress around it. And yes, so it will crumble, it'll need repair and all those things, but it's an inside job. All that stuff that people do to us, I am sorry, it's gonna probably keep happening because you keep living and people are different than us and we're different than them. And we need to work together. And sometimes we're just gonna have to really look inward. And not sometimes, all the time. And one of the things we can do to do that is mental fitness because of this thing right here, your saboteurs. Your saboteurs, they motivate you through negative emotions like fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, and insecurity. Self-sabotage. If you've ever felt any of those things, which I find it hard that, we can live through life without feeling any of those things. Shame for things that happen to you when you keep secrets. Shame because you didn't achieve a goal. Guilt, oh gosh, motherly guilt, not just depending on the mothers, but Mother's Day is on top of my mind right now. And I have two daughters. That motherly guilt will just eat you alive. And all the comedians and shows about it, they exaggerate it, but that's real. To manage that, because the saboteurs are going to be there. Sage is where we want to be. And sage is exactly what it sounds like. I mean, burn the incense, turn on the music, cue a harp, close your eyes, and just really tune into your inner self. And you're motivated through your positive emotions like empathy, curiosity, creativity, passion, and purpose. Don't that sound so much better than fear, stress, anger, guilt, and shame and insecurity? If we had a choice, we choose sage. And we do have a choice. And we're going to talk about how to choose sage, claim sage, and stay in sage. Negative emotions are necessary. So I'm not selling some brand of you are always going to be okay. You're never going to feel bad. We're going to smile all the time. Everything's going to be coming up roses. That's not true. And it's not helpful because we do need to be alerted to things sometimes. I mean, if you're in danger, but staying in that emotion hurts your ability to see clearly, respond with empathy. And I like that really, that last one, laser focused action, meaning you might react, but that's exactly what it is. It's a reaction. You want a strategic focus action. And if you go from that negative emotion to the saboteur being the loudest voice in your head, then that's when the spiral begins. And so, how do we stop it? It's an inside job. And I keep showing this slide because I kind of want that to become your phrase for the rest of the week. Somebody bothers you, you might want to, you just say, protecting your peace. It's an inside job. You say they're grit teeth, like it's so joke. You can be mad when you say it, but you need to remind yourself. And so the reason having a mantra is good is because positive change requires some effort. And again, I know you're like, well, aren't you gonna wave a magic wand and I was gonna be good at all this? Not necessarily, but it is not as hard as you think it is. But it is 80% mental muscle. And how do you build muscles? You lift weights, you work out, you exercise, body weight resistance, all of those things. And only 20% insight. So you're taking care of the 20% right now. I mean, you're getting some information. You might be at like 15, 10%. I don't know, wherever you rank in knowing where you came in with information and how much you gained from it. That yellow spot, it's yellow because that's caution. You might know enough just to be dangerous, but have you been practicing? And that's why the 80% is in green, because that's where we want to be. That's what's going to actually help us. And so when you think about sage and saboteur, some other terms you may be more familiar with are growth mindset and fixed mindset. Saboteur would be the fixed mindset. Either good at it or I'm not. I give up. Basically, I'm never going to be able to do it. And maybe you've said it, you've heard it, or you know someone that just pops in your head immediately. But that is fixed mindset, and that is a way to sabotage yourself. Growth is, okay, that happened, but everything is an opportunity. We can flip it around. Either of these in the extreme are bad, obviously, but everything is a gift and opportunity. Gift or opportunity might be more like it, depending on what your viewpoint is. Glass half empty or glass half full. But the goal is to sway more toward growth mindset. And remember that you don't just land there and you're done. You have to continuously remind yourself because it takes mental muscle. And so the reason your muscle has to be so big is because you got a Supreme Court judge sitting on the bench who is the master saboteur. The funny thing is, it's in your head. It's you. And we all have it. It warns us about, ooh, don't go to wherever, da, da, da. They have this crime rate. Ooh, don't go here. It's hurricane. Ooh, everything hurricane season. Like even your vacation, you can sabotage your vacation. When my kids were young, I had to have everything in ship shape order when we traveled. I had a list. This is what's supposed to be. I still have a list. Yet I've learned to relax because I was so tense by the time we got there. It took me a couple of days to get in vacation mode, fixating on what could go wrong. And that's what much of our stress comes from. So this chart here, I showed it the last time I did this, and it basically outlines all the different types of saboteurs that come into our life, that are in our life because they're part of us. And if you were to take one of my workshops where we go deeper into this in a very small group and we can talk about it and kind of like do your assessment, see where you are, map out where you want to be, then we could go through each and every one of those. But you can kind of get from what you're seeing in the picture and the words what the different saboteurs are. I mentioned earlier pleasers, stereotypically women may be try to please other people. That's a stereotype. Restless, that is a personal saboteur of mine. Now, I'm being transparent about that because saboteur doesn't equal you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It's a heightened awareness. You become heightened, have a heightened awareness of what is happening so that you can take a different course of action or whatever, stop it altogether. Restless for me is I like to just do different stuff all the time, and my brain is jumping from one place to another. And the problem with that is in the extreme, you will not get anything done, number one. And number two, you're always searching for that next shiny thing. And so none of these in themselves are good alone. Hyperachiever, that would be me. Controller got some of that, stickler, pleaser, all of it. We all have a piece of it. But there's probably one or two that are a little more vigilant than the others. And at the end, I'll have an opportunity for you to take a shot of a QR code so you can take that assessment. The sage perspective, though, every outcome or circumstance can be turned into a gift or opportunity. And since it can, we're going to take a minute and take this gift and opportunity of time together to do a short mental fitness session. They're also called PQ reps, also known as positive intelligence. Like emotional intelligence is EQ, positive intelligence is PQ. And this method comes out of Dr. Shazad Shamin, who did a research study at Stanford. And he's the one who coaches into putting this method out there into the world so that we can have a healthier world as far as our mental abilities and well-being and health is concerned in our fitness. And so I'm going to show you a quick exercise. It is very short. I know I can't see you, most of you, but just wherever you are, take a moment. Do not do this while driving or close your eyes or do anything because it's kind of a meditative state, but please be safe and don't operate heavy machinery. So for a moment, I want you to close your eyes. I'm gonna close mine too. And then I just want you to take a deep breath and just let that settle in for a moment. Let's try breathing out to where your belly extends out and you can just feel the lift and rise of it. Now think of something today, this week, this month, or this year that did not go well for you. Try not to go too far back or open any traumatic doors or windows that are not safe to be open right now. Take care of yourself in this process, but think of something, a conversation. Maybe you got the wrong order somewhere out to lunch that did not go as planned. I'm thinking of something. I can feel my heart rate increasing just a little bit, but then I will breathe and let that go. And now I'm imagine that it went well and the emotions that come with that. And since that takes a lot of imagination, and that's typical of mindfulness and meditation, let's try something a little different. Take your palms and rub them together like you're hungry or greedy for something. But as you do it, I want you to feel the ridges of your fingers, the lines of your fingerprints in your hand. Is it rough? Is it soft? Play around with the pressure. Press your hands together, all while taking deep breaths. You can also do it with a single, two fingers rubbing together, or maybe you just want to rub the back of your hand. And now, come back into the room and listen for a sound far, far away. Maybe the hum of an air conditioner or computer. Now, listen for something really close. Could be so close that it's the breath you're breathing. Take a couple deep breaths, and when you're ready, just slowly, slowly, slowly wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, open your eyes, and we'll come back into the room. And that was a fairly long one. I was just on a roll with talking. But a PQ or a rep can be 5 seconds, 1 second, 10 seconds, an hour. And you can do them with your eyes open. And that's why I love this so much. Because I can be talking to you right now, and you'd have no idea that I would be sitting here rubbing my pointer finger and my thumb together to feel the fingerprints in my hand to kind of calm myself. Almost like a personal fidget toy, except it's not fidgeting. We are adults. This is the sage perspective. I have fidget toys, so I'm not talking about y'all. I have at least 3. So the power of this is when we have an event happen in our lives, that event you were thinking about as we were doing the breathing exercise, it could be, you know, you and your loved one got in a little spat before you left the house, and you're like, wow, I should have responded differently. That's the event. There's 2 ways that can go. Remember that judge who was the master saboteur can say, you always do that. Don't even act like you should have responded differently. You know you don't do that. That's not you. It could just really insult your character. And that is not where we want to go. We could go down the neural pathway that says, what can I learn from this? Maybe not there to say it's a gift. I mean, it took me a couple years to call my stroke a gift, and I still don't recommend it. But if you make a choice to ask yourself, what is there to learn from this, to heighten your curiosity, then you can turn that into a gift of some kind of opportunity. And then I hear some people saying, I can hear you thinking, what if I lose a loved one? I am not going to minimize that. That hurts. Grief is one of the biggest events and insults to our mind, body, and soul. We take it hard as people, especially when the person is very close to us. So I won't call that a gift, especially if that's not how you identify it. We can, I promise you, it may take time. We can reframe to some degree and say, I'm glad I had the time I had. That might be way down the road. Or maybe you identify something about that person you want to carry forward and start a scholarship fund, or it doesn't even have to be that big. Whatever it is, I promise you that when the clouds clear, the smoke clears, you may be able to see that it is an opportunity and a gift. And I know this because one of my other hats is I'm an associate minister, and I have held hands and cried with so many people in hospitals, funerals, issues with their loved one, just so many different things. And not just because of that. I mean, that plus a nurse. I've seen a lot of trauma. I've experienced a lot of trauma. And I'll be honest and say I've had a bad week in relation to some of that trauma. I do have PTSD. And so that comes back. Yet having some skills in your toolkit can help you navigate that process and choose the sage perspective. My daughter that's helping with us today, we lost our pet Jet. He was Jet Black, and so that's his name, Jet. Cute little toy poodle. And that was hard for her because he was there most of her life. And so her gift and opportunity, her sage perspective is she has another dog. And on his birthday, when he was here with us, and now that he's gone, we still do, don't judge us. We make tacos. Now, he don't get the taco like all the season. He didn't get all the season, just some little boiled meat or whatever. But Taco's favorite, that dog would hear Chipotle come to deliver food and would run from anywhere in the house to get a chip. And so that perspective that I'm showing you right now is remembering the joy. I'm choosing to focus on the joy. And you could even say, I'm remembering the joy. Eventually, you'll start to believe yourself. And so you have to intercept the saboteur. Just like in I don't know, football is what comes to mind with interceptions, but anytime you get in the way of something, someone throws that long Hail Mary down the field and to your saboteur, like, catch it. She's ripe for injury. Isn't that terrible? And then all of a sudden, someone comes out of nowhere and saves the day. It's you, the sage. You save the day. And the way you do that is by choice, which is self-command. You have to tell yourself, I am going to do this. I'm going to make it a priority, even amid all the struggle. So if you're feeling negative emotions, literally say, stop it. You can name your judge. I'm not gonna name my judge because then somebody on here will have that name. I'll use my daughter's Imara. Say I call my judge Imara. Kids do judge. I'll be like, stop it. You are a saboteur. You're sabotaging me. And this isn't coming from where I want it to come from. It's an automatic response. It's almost involuntary if you let it be. You do some PQ reps to activate the sage and tell that saboteur to shut up. So PQ reps, again, I said, let me just point those out. Feel the ridges of your hand. So there's tactile. You could also find maybe there's a rough spot on your desk or anything that brings you into your body and out of your head primarily. You can also focus on the sounds like we did. If you're in a meeting and you can't close your eyes, you can focus on someone who's got a pleasant expression. Or maybe there's an object in the room that makes you smile. Or this one's tricky because you could get into trouble depending on how susceptible you are to laughing. Maybe there's a particular person or persons who seem to be the triggering event. You could imagine them as their younger selves or how you would imagine them to be if they were different than they are now towards you. Like, so maybe someone always frowns. So while you're staring at them, imagine them smiling. And so while that can be tricky, is because maybe you'll be smiling like a joker and they'll be like, what is wrong with this woman? So you got to be careful with that one. The one that I do like a lot, and I used it for months, and I still do in some sense. I use screensavers to send me a message every time I look at my phone to remind me to stay on track. But on track, I mean, this one I had that said, people have their feelings, and those feelings have nothing to do with you. People have their feelings, and those feelings have nothing to do with you. And as someone who has some pleaser in her and some of those, a lot of those other saboteurs, I needed to look at that all the time. And that became almost like a PQ rep for me. I could feel the trigger, chest get tight. I'm like, my head is just ruminating. Oh my gosh, how do I turn this around? Are they okay? Is everything okay? And then I pick up my phone and go, oh, that's their feelings. Everybody's safe. How do I feel? I'm good. And so having reminders around you is awesome. And then assume the sage perspective that every problem can be converted into a gift and opportunity. So thus far, it might sound like I'm giving you a bunch of homework, like, oh, now I gotta do this, now I gotta do that. I'm serious. Like, you can start just for seconds a day. To master it, it's recommended 15 minutes a day. And so if you want to continue on this journey with me, there's opportunities for that. And you will be equipped with some tools like an app and other resources, some group coaching. Sirzad Samin actually facilitates some of the sessions, most of them. Um, and like I said, he's the Stanford researcher that came up with it. And so it's nice when you can get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And then you generate the gift by using sage powers. And I know this is a lot of terminology. The bottom line is we want to be into our sage perspective as much as possible because it protects our peace. And guess what? When our peace is protected, everybody else's is too. Because, when a woman's fed up, we be over it. And so our sage powers like empathy, curiosity, creativity, calm, clear-headed action, meaning stop, pause, feel those ridges in your hand, look at that phone, take that gap so that you can fill it in with a positive sage response. The circumstances don't have to be positive for us to respond in sage. Trust me, I've done it all kinds of different ways, and this is the best way. So this is our second grounding. I want you to come into the room again. We've been talking about a whole bunch of stuff. Take the breaths. If you have, since we started doing something else, knitting, washing dishes. I said knitting because I knit. It's not a stereotype. Whatever you're doing, pause, give yourself some time. And I want you to think back. You don't have to close your eyes for this if you don't want to, because I can see you anyway. Think back to a time where you were happy, like really happy. What was different about you, not the circumstances? Not, I lived in this situation, I was in this relationship, I didn't have this job, I didn't have, what was different about you then when you were happy? Hmm. I don't know, that gives me like some really pleasant memories because when I was my happiest, or when I am my happiest, what's different about me is my heart rate isn't very high. And I discovered that from going on vacation and going back to work, that my baseline heart rate is through the roof in a normal day if I'm in a workplace and corporate workplace environment because I'm always on edge. But when I'm on the beach, it doesn't happen. The difference can feel like it feels like a heart attack. It could be so drastic. And so I can't be on the beach all the time. So how do I create the beach where I am? I got to be kind to myself. If I'm triggered, give myself space as much as I possibly can, just like I told you to do today. And then, since my judge is called Mara today, I would say, Mara, judge, be quiet because I heard Coach Dr. Kim tell us all about this. And we are not going to continue to sabotage ourselves in this way. And so the question is, when something bad happens, is it bad or is it a gift? It can be both. It can be but the bottom line is it's whatever you believe. Because something can happen to the same two people, and to one person it's no big deal, and to the other person it's the end of the world. And I'm talking separate from circumstance. Because take it from me, life can look really rosy on the outside, and you can really be struggling on the inside. And I always feel like people don't want to hear this. And it's okay if you don't want to. I feel like we need to know that we choose to believe what we want to believe. And never, 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 never am I trying to play the role of a psychiatrist or psychologist, even though I have some psychology training, not in that way. And it's not that you'll never have a bad day and never have a down day. We have to forge ahead in spite of, because you matter, you're worthy, you are important, and we need you. I mean, I do. You're all here. I don't even know all of you. I know some of you, but having you here has really uplifted me and made me feel like this is worth doing because people can benefit from it. And so for round 3, I just want you to ponder this because doubt can creep in. Is it really possible to just shift from saboteur to sage, even in tough challenges? If you believe that it is possible to shift, give me an emoji or something. Like, oh yeah, give me a thumbs up. Yes, it's possible. I'm bought in. I believe it. Okay. Miss K, thank you. Shy, I see you. Cassandra, Vanessa. Can you shift? Can you shift? Lizette, I hope I said your name right. I like it though. Who? Andrea, who? And Robin. Okay, I'm sorry. Imara whispered to me. There's so many of y'all here, I can barely keep up. LaShawn, I want to give y'all all a shout out. Stacy C. I just love. Okay, yes, you think it's possible. I'm so excited because the answer is yes. But let me tell you, the last time I did this webinar, 70% of the people said, I don't know, maybe. And there was over 100 women on there. And so situations, circumstances can dictate that. And I'll be honest and say that presentation was mostly related to how you protect your peace in a world where women are being assaulted, their spirits so bad that they feel like they can't go on. And the case studies were from academia with the two folks that Dr. Claudette Bailey, who got not fired, she resigned from her post at Harvard, and then Dr. Kendia Bailey, I think I said the other person's wrong name. All right, Dr. Kendia Bailey, she died by suicide because her concerns were not being heard. And despair, I'm assuming, I didn't know her personally, but when you lose hope for the future, and that's what I don't want to happen. I have to talk myself out of some pit sometimes and say, nah, 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 Judge, you shut up because you're not speaking the truth to me. And so to do that, saboteur to sage, and sage as much as possible. and it takes mental muscle. I wish it would just rain down on us and we could just automatically do that. But automatic, until you practice it and it becomes a habit, is most likely not going to be the response you wanted. Lasting positive change, 80% mental muscle, 20% insight. Congratulations, round of applause. You have some insight into what mental fitness is. We all do. Now we got to put it into practice. And so just think about this. What would you change? What would change? Not what would you? What would change if you had more focus, energy, and clarity? Energy for sure. And what's holding you back from achieving those goals? I see we're getting low on time. We're almost done. And what if you could do all of that in 15 minutes a day? I sound like an infomercial. What if you could achieve all of this in 15 minutes a day or less? You too can have mental fitness too. It's true though. And I'm telling you that my plate is so full that I wouldn't tell you that if it wasn't true because I still make time for this because it can be done anywhere I am. And that is what positive intelligence is. It's the percent of the time your brain is working positively versus negatively serving you. We don't want to walk around with our greatest weapon, which is our mind, because it's precious, it's a pearl, beating us up. It has better uses. Trust me. And so, as we get to the near end, there's a QR code there for you. And I'm gonna, it better work. We're gonna test it together. Open in Chrome. It's to take you to Linktree. There you go. And you will be able to see everything that's there. And I'm trying to make sure I'm doing this with y'all because y'all know these systems, you be thinking you have it all together, and then somebody gonna email me like it didn't work. And then I'll be scrambling at 2 in the morning trying to figure it out to give you good customer service. And so then you're gonna go in there and then you're gonna put Peace 24, one word, and you'll be able to get access to the video that's there. It's not from today's, but it's from the last one. Oh, Miss K has a question. How do you change a cycle of self-sabotage? And this is exactly how I will acknowledge that I mentioned I'm not a therapist, and Ms. K, I'm not saying you need a therapist. I just want to give this disclaimer. There is a point in time where it's not a self-help job and you need to seek help. If it's accessible to you, the better thing to do is to seek help anyway. I do, because it's accessible at the moment. In the context of mental fitness, though, you interrupt it by that cycle by making the PQ reps a habit. So maybe you can have a good way to start practicing is every time I wash my hands, I'm going to focus on how the texture of my hands are, the soap feels, because in that moment of time, you're not stewing and ruminating about your next move. You're focused on what's in front of you. And you get to down regulate your nervous system and take a deep breath. That's the long-winded answer. The short answer is pause. That pause, the pause is so profound. Pause. And when you make it a habit to pause, and I have a lot, I do use my fingertips a lot. I just squeeze them together and whoo, take some breaths and recenter myself. To break the cycle, you have to get started and watch that judge talk to it. I have not worked outside my home since June of last year. And some of that had some PTSD attached to it. And so having energy to move and do anything, it's not that I didn't want to, I couldn't. I was emotionally paralyzed. So I started doing PQ reps before I got out of bed. And it didn't happen overnight. It was a journey. And then eventually I got out the bed earlier. I got prepared for the day and I got back in the game. Another way is to schedule your time like you always do. And if you're like me, you find 20 other things to do. But sit down and do the PQs and drop into your body. Give your mind time to stop doing the list and this and this and this and say, this is what I'm doing now. And call that judge out by name. And if you have access to the app and things from doing the actual program, you'll have recordings and modules that you can do every day and kind of like track your progress and extra videos and whatnot. And so with that, I am an entrepreneur, solopreneur, meaning I am IT, admin assistant, CEO, COO, all the O's. And so these are my links to different spaces and places. If you have trouble with anything, though, I really would just appreciate it if you would extend grace and not just like delete it and never go back. Can you let me know so I can fix it? Because that would really, really, really mean a lot. And we need to support each other in all our endeavors because it's a big wide world out there and it can be scary. And women got to stick together. We're not always so good at that. That'll be a later webinar. But for today, you came in here in unity, and I am so grateful. There's some programs coming down the line. These are all my logos and whatnot. I have a book on Amazon, Meeting Just Fine. I'm gonna change there's a new edition coming out of that soon. My new nonprofit, the Perfecting Project, is in the building phase. But keep your eyes open because with that project, we're going to have um, launch your podcast, launch your business. We're going to have some mastermind groups, some group coaching. And then I've been thinking is the podcast. I have been on a long, long, long break, but I have a special guest coming up later this month, and I'm not telling you who it is. They are an author. They are an intelligent powerhouse, just woman. Oh my goodness, y'all gonna be like, what? So stay tuned for that. And what else we got? Empower Her Spirit, another project I'm working on. Basically, my brain never stops, so I have to keep the ideas going. And Ms. K, you're very welcome. Transparency is something I had to grow into, but it's the secrets that kill us. Ugh. We gotta share with each other, uplift each other, and let someone else learn from what you've been through. And so with that, I think that, oh, yep, we have had a great evening. Oh, at least I did. I hope you did. Please look out at your emails. Today is Wednesday. And so in the next 24 to 48 hours, I will send a follow-up email. I will try really hard not to spam you. If something happens where you're getting emails you don't want, scroll to the bottom and click on subscribe or email me. It is okay. This isn't for everybody, and that's okay too. I want this to be for the people it's for. You're welcome, Vanessa, Stacey, all y'all. Thank you. So stay tuned for more and have a good night.